El siguiente es un podcast exclusivo de Revolución Network.
Hi everybody, welcome to another chapter of Tuned. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the music industry because so far we touched the topic in a very abstract way, though there is a pragmatic one. There's a very established mechanism that makes things appear the way that they are not. Because in the end, they need to create idols. They need to create the perception that that thing, that person is unreachable, is higher, is like a god. But before going any further, let's make a clarification. What do we mean when we talk about music industry? In this case, we need to wind back the clocks about 100 years. We can trace back the beginning, the birth of the music industry when the vinyl, the first CDs or the first supports that allowed people to reproduce and listen to recorded music. That's when we can, let's say, more or less estimate that the music industry was born. This might appear a slight detail to you, but actually you have to think that before that, the music was actually commissioned by popes, by emperors who needed to celebrate their greatness or the greatness of God. So there wasn't actually a market. Of course, there was a value, but not the value or a commercial, an economic value around a product that could be sold, like a t-shirt, like merchandise, like a CDs. There was nothing like that. So once the music industry started to have a product in their hands, they needed to sell it. They needed to create value. They needed to start communicate a story that brought people to know an artist, his music, and eventually to buy their products. We still have to remember that there was no internet, there was no television at the beginning of the century, so this process wasn't necessarily something that today we would call mainstream or aggressive marketing. It was due to make people reach and to make people know about the existence of such an artist, because any other way around wouldn't have worked. The artist didn't have the means, didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the tools to reach out for the people, getting concerts, getting deals, basically getting known and promoted. And this is a breakthrough because, of course, any product gives birth to a market. Before, there was music, there was art, but there wasn't a music market. There wasn't a music industry. So now we have something that we can sell. We have something that we can make money out of that. And also one more important point, that it's not just about money, but making music at the beginning of the century and still till the 70s, 80s, and probably late 90s, making music was extremely expensive. Getting access to a studio, to the engineer, and for them to own this kind of expensive equipment was like a very difficult chain that ruled out a lot of people that couldn't allow. And that's where we begin to see the organizations or the institutions like the labels. The labels were nothing more than investors because it was the missing link between the artist and the technicians who knew how to produce and make a record. The artist could play, but they didn't know how to make records. So the labels are no more than the artist's banks. If you're a music artist and you want to do a record, you need money, you don't go to the bank, or, well, you can try, but eventually they will probably not give you the money. So if you need a loan, you might want to go to a label, or you expect that a label pays for that. And that's where the mechanism starts to take form. The labels are generating a debt. And that, my friends, must be understood and must be very clear. Because I talk to several people daily and they think they have this illusion about a label that comes, puts the money, and that says, do whatever you want. I don't care. If you lose money, yeah, you're still my hero. If you're successful, we're going to be best friends. No, it doesn't work like that. If you go to a bank for any other loan, you have to pay them back. No matter what happens, no matter if you're successful, no matter if your plan, if your project kicks in, you have to give the money back. And that's what happens. The only thing around is that labels partially also bet on the failure of artists. I don't want to go in deep into this matter today because it's very crucial, but let's just put it this way. We normal people don't know how to make money out of debt because we think that having a credit would make us rich. When we are in debt, we actually are in trouble. But this is another story. So let's get back to the investor. When the investor puts the money, of course, if it puts all the money because you're out of it, he takes the 80, 90% of what it comes. And this is where the crucial part is. They take the 90% on everything, especially if they did everything. If you didn't put any cent, of course, they put the biggest part of the investment, but once they do it, they own you. So if you are successful, they will take the rest of the contract. Probably it's like, depending, it might be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, but you're in debt with them and they control everything. Say like you are making a little bit of success, so you're called to take a photo shooting where they pay you. Labels will get a percentage out of that. Then they call you to play live. You still owe a part of that cachet to the label because, that's the dynamic. And I'm not even saying that this is wrong. Because let's put it this way, if I am the guy who puts all the money, I get the most benefits because I'm also taking all the risk. That's why I can't completely agree with those artists that when they were nobody, took all the resources and the money of the labels, and once they're famous, they get against them because they realize how much money they move as artists now that they're famous, but the investment, the structure, the building was built with their resources, and of course, they will eat out of that. And that's where the artist realizes that he or she is a puppet. In some ways, of course, because they are not free to decide what to do, what not to do, because of course the project is not entirely theirs. And like anything else, when you have partners, in this case, they are partners, they are investors, they are shareholders, actually, you could call it this way. They own a part of it and they have a say in what you do. I recently learned an article that was explaining how Halsey, the singer, can't release music because her label is telling to wait the right moment to make a viral impact on TikTok. Why? Because TikTok is like thinking and starting to think like a label. So they are paying people to create contents, but they're paying on quantity, of course, views and quantity of what you produce. They don't care about the quality of what you produce. They don't care about the artistic movement and evolution. They simply are making another job. And see where I'm getting so far. When the music industry was born, it was much smaller, and the means of reproduction, the media industry was much smaller because it began with radios, and then it starts with TVs, then it starts with vinyls. But the point is that it was easier to control and to spread the message. Now the social networks opened up completely the world, but of course, on the other way around, they set completely new rules, and they are now the key makers because the streaming platforms and the social networks are key makers and key players, and we can't wave on that. We can't wave on them. They are making the market. And if TikTok decided to step into the music industry, that's a big change. I don't know if for the better or for the worse, but that's a big change that can't be ignored. So at this stage, I want to bust a myth if it's not clear already. I often hear, but labels in the 70s and the 60s, they were completely side to side with the artists, and they were interested in pushing art and making music bigger. No, false. That's a lie. That's simply a story that we are telling ourselves, or I don't know, we heard, but they were never interested in that. And think about it, like a very good investor, they never love, they never get into emotionally what they do because they need to stay focused and they need to stay, let's say, cold in taking their decision. They simply saw in art like a good investment that paid a lot of money for over a century. And now, the music industry is like in crisis. But if you look at the figures, the three major labels, they are more successful than ever because they will always find another way of doing business because that's their job. They have survived over a century or whatever it is. I'm not clear when the three labels as we know it today, they were born, but actually they knew the market for a very long time and they are the market leaders and the market players. So they will always find a way, unless a catastrophe happens, of course. So, having clarified that, I think we can all agree that they're doing their job. It's not their job to promote art. They're simply making money out of art, which is a slight but huge difference. So the way I see it, I stop believing and hoping that they will drive a change. They will not bring any impulse to the artistic movement pushing people and artists to do art. They will push artists to be influencers. They will push artists to find new ways to make money while they're doing that. So if we feel that it needs to be a new movement to create and to be in contact with art so that artists can deliver something to people which really matters, in my opinion, that must let's say, start from the base of the pyramid. I made peace with myself a long time ago, though I did struggle a lot for many, many years because just like everybody else, I felt trapped and I felt frustrated because I felt that institutions or the industry, the music industry, was not actually working for the music, but exploiting, taking advantage out of music. So in the next chapter, I will talk in details how this industry creates puppets, creates characters that they can be exploited, commercially speaking, but not actually in an artistic way. The value is created, and it is created. I'm not saying that it's not, but in a very marketing-wise way. So it doesn't matter what can you bring to the community, what can you bring to the artistic movement, what's the next step of the art and music evolution, as long as you can bring money and you can keep the economic flowing. So guys, if you felt like resonating with this topic, do not miss the next chapter, and as usual, I'll see you there. Ciao.